Haymaker. It's gotta be one of those iconic decks on the era. With Hitmonchan, like the Buzz, yeah, Farfetch. Wait, Farfetch?
Oh my god, bro.
What? Don't do it. Okay, what is going on here? Yep, so Doduo and Farfetch were a thing back in base set only, the original Haymakers. So you still have your Hitmonchan and like the Buzz, but you don't have Scyther, since Scyther came from Jungle, and that hasn't been released yet. So yeah, it was technically the prototype of Haymaker before Haymaker actually existed, since Farfetch and Doduo actually shares the same fight resistance, similar to Scyther, and the combination with free retreat and attack. Plus, I'll leave a link to Klaczynski's blog down in the description, as you can see here with the Haymaker description, and you can see other deck lists on base set only. So Hitmonchan doesn't need any introduction with that jab attack, special punch, it's going to dominate a lot. And for Electabuzz, that Thunder Punch and Thunder Shock is going to be a great combination. And Farfetch and Doduo, the thing about them is that Farfetch has that Lake Slap where you can actually do 30 damage only if you're lucky, so, and that pause smash is just a nice addition for if you want to use that attack. You must need a double colorless. So it's not the best, but it's something to be more offensive about. And for Doduo, the combination with that free retreats, you already know, I've done base set only decks, and you know, so far there's only 6 on the channel. And yeah, you know, I think Doduo is some sort of, you know, savior to this meta, and it really shows that that free retreat at 50 HP is actually pretty nice to see for the meta to have this base set only format in the first place because of Doduo. So that is your clear introduction to Haymaker. It's going to do these rapidly fast attacks on your first turn. You're just trying to dock your opponents as soon as possible, and as much as you can use the Electabuzz or Hitmonchan to deal massive damage with plus power. And that, like I mentioned, Electabuzz is going to use that Thunder Punch no matter what, but it's off like a coin flip. So yeah, similar to Farfetch, it's going to be a little bit risky, but at least Electabuzz is more consistent. So yeah, and Farfetch, like I mentioned, is just going to be there to be scooped up and, you know, possibly take some damage and deal damage itself. And like I mentioned, Doduo is, you know, just there to, you know, soak up some damage and do some little bit of damage. You know, Fury attack is not bad, and I think Doduo is actually gonna do something at least. You know. All right, on to the deck list we go. Alright, starting out with 3 copies of Hitmonchan. You always want to start off with that jab on the first turn, and then you 2 copies of Doduo, 2 copies of Farfetch, and then 3 copies of Electabuzz. You always want to have more copies of those instead of Doduo and Farfetch. And then 3 copies of Scoopa. Oops, gotta scoop on that, just ignore that. Don't have another copy of those, and then 3 copies of Gust of Wind, and 3 copies of Energy Retrieval. Just those, get those energy back. We are playing dual type energy, and then 4 copies of Build, just for that draw power sake. 4 copies of plus power. You can say full playset, so you know, depends on whatever your terms. And then 1 copy of Switch, 3 copies of Professor O. Again, that extra switch, you know, it's going to come in handy sometimes. And then 3 copies of Item Finder, 4 copies of energy removal, 2 copies of super energy removal, and that super energy removal is going to be very devastating, and then 2 copies of last, 2 double colorless, 7 lightning energy, and 9 fighting to round it off. So yeah, that is the deck list right there. Now, I heard people adding Chansey to the deck, but I think Chansey, for me, is typically not my playstyle. I usually not have Chansey for sort of these like kind of like rapid kind of decks. So usually for Haymaker, Chansey, having 1 copy. If that fits your playstyle, that's totally fine. But for me, I just feel like Chansey is kind of like, you know, taking up some slot spaces for the deck, so I didn't really include it in here, but you can definitely include it for your deck if you feel free to use Chansey. And for computer search, I did originally include computer search, but I realized I was kind of taking up deck space, so yeah. But I seen some variations that did include computer search. It's just that for this variation, since I did copy from Jason Klaczynski's blog and Shuckle TCG, and so I didn't really use computer search, and that's why I didn't include it here. So yeah, that is base set only Haymaker, and honestly, I wasn't really planning to do this because I've seen Shuckle TCG and possibly others done a list on Haymaker. It's literally everywhere, but it's base set only, and I feel like it hasn't seen much love, so I might as well give the attention to a more recent thing, and just like spread it around. If that's how I feel like this is going at, because you know, Haymaker with Light the Buzz, Hitmonchan, Scyther, that's what everyone saw as Haymaker. But this, I think talking about this original Haymaker really shares a lot more thought than I originally had in plan. Therefore, it did give me an opportunity to test out this new style of editing that I originally had. You know, that I saw my old videos of base set only, I'm like, even like general Pokemon decks that I've made throughout the past, I didn't see them as like high quality. I saw them pretty, you know, in that sense of that I'm not really happy of looking at it. So I really want to switch things up and kind of inspired with Shuckle TCG. So shouts to him. I'm pretty sure I mentioned his channel a lot, but he really brings out the base set fossil and everything community together. Honestly, I've been experimenting some decks that I'm trying to make it somewhat meta. You know, some Pokemon that didn't really see much play, like Nidoking, Bijou, even like Dugong for crying out loud. And yeah, so I know those might be coming out soon, so stay tuned if you're interested in that. Those other deck lists of those underrated Pokemon, right? So yeah, stay tuned for that. And one thing to mention, why does Electabuzz sound like that in the anime?